The Stellar Elite Academy, or SEA as it was commonly known throughout the galaxy, stood as a gleaming monument to interstellar cooperation and military excellence. Its spires reached toward the stars it sought to conquer. Visible from orbit around Nexus Prime, the neutral world chosen generations ago to host this prestigious institution. Within these walls, the finest officers of 24 species trained, competed, and forged the bonds that would one day maintain peace across known space. Commander Xyler stalked through the pristine corridors, his 4 secondary limbs folded neatly behind his primary arms in the formal posture of Xylosian authority. His iridescent exoskeleton caught the light as he moved, creating ripples of color that subtly conveyed his agitation to anyone familiar with his species' physiological tells. Unfortunately for the junior officers scurrying out of his path, most lacked this understanding and merely responded to his imposing 2.5-meter frame and renowned temper. "Is this a joke, Kale?" Xyler demanded, entering the officer's ready room without announcement. Deputy Commander Kale, an Andorian with pale blue skin and a pragmatic disposition, looked up from his data terminal. Unlike his superior, Kale's humanoid appearance made him more approachable to many Academy cadets, though his reputation for cool assessment and uncompromising standards offered little comfort. "The assignment is legitimate, Commander," Kale responded, his voice level. "The Terran Diplomatic Corps has finally exercised their right to send a candidate. After 73 years of observer status, Earth has decided to fully participate." Xyler's secondary limbs twitched in obvious agitation. Humans are barely space-capable. Their first interstellar journey was less than a century ago. The Treaty of Proxima only included them as a courtesy. Nevertheless, the treaty grants them the right to send qualified candidates, and by all official metrics, this one qualifies. Kale gestured toward the holographic display. Cadet Ethan Hayes, graduated top of his class from their military academy, expert in multiple combat disciplines, exceptional physical and mental evaluations. On the human scale, Xyler added dismissively. Kale's antennae twitched slightly, the Andorian equivalent of shrug. "Policy is policy, Commander." The Council approved the application. He arrives tomorrow. The next day, Ethan Hayes stepped off the transport shuttle with nothing but a standard-issue duffel bag and an expression of control neutrality. At 185 centimeters tall, with an athletic build, he would have been considered imposing among his own species. Here, surrounded by the varied forms of the galaxy's elite warrior races, he appeared decidedly average, perhaps even fragile by comparison. Nearby, a Mantodine cadet unfurled his blade-like forelimbs in a stretching motion that would have disemboweled anyone standing too close. A pair of Taurian officers, each standing over 2 meters tall with density that suggested they could walk through walls rather than around them, observed the arriving shuttle with idle curiosity. Further along the platform, a Celicoid glided past, its gelatinous form undulating inside a containment field adapted for its aqueous physiology. Among these exotic forms, Hayes stood out precisely because of how unremarkable he appeared. No extra limbs, no external armor, no obvious adaptations beyond the standard bipedal primate form that several species in the galaxy shared to varying degrees. Cadet Hayes, Deputy Commander Kale, greeted him at the arrival platform. "Welcome to the Stellar Elite Academy." "Thank you, sir," Hayes responded, snapping to attention with textbook precision. His voice carried neither uncertainty nor overcompensating bravado, just the measured response of a professional soldier. "I'll show you to your quarters. After you've settled in, you'll report to medical for initial physiological baselines, then to my office for orientation." Kale turned and led the way, setting a brisk pace. As they walked, Hayes absorbed his surroundings with quick, observant glances that never lingered long enough to be considered staring. He noted the subtle architectural accommodations for various physiologies: elevated walkways, low-gravity corridors, specialized atmosphere chambers at regular intervals. He also noticed the looks he received: curious, dismissive, occasionally hostile. Is there anything specific I should know about Academy protocols regarding Earth standard requirements, sir? Hayes asked as they entered the residential wing. Our systems are fully adaptable to your physiological needs, Kale replied. Your quarters have been calibrated to Earth standard atmosphere, temperature, and gravity. The common areas maintain a compromise setting that most species find tolerable. Understood, sir. They arrived at a door marked with a numeral designation T7 and the Earth insignia, A. Recent addition to the Academy's lexicon of symbols. These are your quarters, Kale said, gesturing toward the biometric scanner. Register your handprint and retinal pattern now. The system will recognize you thereafter. Hayes did as instructed, and the door slid open to reveal standard Academy quarters, sparse but functional, with a sleeping platform, hygiene station, work terminal, and small common area. Orientation begins at 0800 Academy, standard time tomorrow. The computer will help you convert between AST and your Earth measurements. With that, Kale left Hayes to settle in. Once alone, Hayes methodically unpacked his few belongings, arranged his uniforms, and familiarized himself with the room's features. He was just finishing when his terminal chimed with an incoming message, his official welcome packet and schedule. Meanwhile, in the security monitoring station on the level above, Commander Zyler observed the human with narrowed compound eyes. Beside him stood Academy Security Chief Vorn, a heavy-worlder Draxian whose gray, stony skin and multiple rows of vestigial breathing vent along his neck spoke of his species' evolution on a turbulent, high-gravity planet. Is it done? Zyler asked. Yes, Commander, Vorn rumbled. Environmental controls for room T7 have been adjusted. The human is experiencing precisely twice Earth standard gravity, though the instrumentation in his room will report normal levels. A third officer, Lieutenant Mira, a slender collection with feathered crests instead of hair, shifted uncomfortably. Commander, this unauthorized adjustment could be considered a standard stress test, Zyler interrupted smoothly. All cadets undergo environmental challenges during their training. We're simply starting early to assess the human's adaptability. Of course, Commander, Mira responded, though her bioluminescent freckles pulsed with skepticism. On the monitor, they watched as Hayes moved around his quarters. His movements showed a barely perceptible hesitation as he adjusted to the increased gravitational pull, but nothing like the struggle they had anticipated. Increase monitoring resolution, Zyler ordered. I want biometric readings. The display sharpened, overlaying Hayes' form with data streams measuring heart rate, respiration, and muscle tension. All showed elevated levels, but well within stress parameters for moderate exertion. They observed as Hayes paused, looking thoughtful. He rotated his shoulders experimentally, bounced slightly on his toes, and performed a quick series of stretching movements. Then, to the astonishment of the watching officers, Hayes walked calmly to the room's environmental control panel. After studying it briefly, he accessed the command interface and spoke clearly. System, please increase gravity to triple Earth standard. Authorization, Hayes Delta 7. The security station fell silent as they watched the system acknowledge the command. The computer's voice responded. Authorization confirmed. Adjusting environmental parameters. Warning, gravity settings exceed recommended levels for Terran physiology. Override safety protocols. I accept responsibility for physiological consequences. Override accepted. Gravity now set to 3 times Earth standard. In the monitoring room, Vorn was the first to recover from shock. That's impossible. The authorization codes are restricted to Academy staff and emergency protocols. Check his credentials again, Zyler snapped. Myra's fingers flew across the interface. His Academy application included a special authorization rider from Terran Central Command. It grants him unusual latitude with environmental controls, and no one thought to question this. Zyler's exoskeleton flushed with an angry crimson pattern. It was approved through proper channels, Mira replied defensively. The notation simply indicated specialized training requirements. They watched in stunned silence as Hayes, now under triple Earth gravity, methodically began a series of calisthenics. Push-ups, core exercises, and stretches that should have been nearly impossible under such conditions. His movements were labored but controlled. His face set in an expression of focused determination rather than distress. "What is he?" Bourne whispered. The next morning, rumors about the crazy human had already begun circulating through the academy's corridors. Most dismissed the stories as typical first-day exaggerations, the kind that always surrounded new arrivals. A few cadets who had encountered Hayes at morning mess reported nothing unusual. Just another bipedal cadet with unexceptional features who kept to himself. Deputy Commander Cale, however, had seen the monitoring data. As Hayes arrived precisely on time for his orientation meeting, Cale studied him with new interest. The human showed no signs of fatigue or strain, despite having spent the night in what should have been crippling gravitational conditions. "Please be seated, Cadet," Cale said, gesturing to the chair opposite his desk. "Thank you, sir." Hayes sat with perfect posture, his movements fluid and relaxed. "I trust your quarters are satisfactory," Cale probed, watching carefully for reaction. Hayes' expression remained neutral. "Yes, sir. The accommodations meet my needs." The Academy's initial assessment period lasts 2 weeks, Cale explained, deciding to proceed with standard protocols while he gathered more information. "During this time, you'll undergo physical evaluations, aptitude tests, and preliminary training exercises to determine your placement within the program." "Understood, sir." "Your first physical assessment begins in 30 minutes. Report to Training Complex B. Instructor Than will conduct the evaluation." "Yes, sir." Hayes stood, saluted crisply, and departed. As soon as the door closed, Cale accessed the secure channel to medical. "Dr. Salana, I'm sending you biometric data on our new Terran cadet. I want a complete physiological workup after his physical assessment today. I'm particularly interested in bone density, muscle composition, and metabolic efficiency." "Anything specific I should be looking for?" the doctor asked. "Anomalies," Cale replied. "Anything that differentiates him from standard human baselines." Training Complex B housed the Academy's adaptive obstacle course, a massive chamber filled with programmable terrain, variable gravity zones, and robotic opponents designed to test cadets' physical capabilities under a wide range of conditions. For the initial assessment, the settings were kept at moderate difficulty, providing a baseline for future comparisons. 20 cadets from various species gathered for the evaluation, forming a striking tableau of evolutionary diversity. Among them, Varek, a croc male, stood out not only for his imposing physique, 2.5 meters of muscular, scaled power, but for the obvious disdain with which he regarded the human newcomer. "Maintain standard Academy gravity for all participants," Instructor Than announced. A lean, seasoned Phobosian with reflective skin that mirrored his surroundings, Than had been breaking in new cadets for decades. "The course tests speed, strength, agility, and tactical thinking. You'll be evaluated on completion time and technique. Begin when the signal sounds." The buzzer echoed through the chamber, and the cadets surged forward. Varek immediately took the lead, his powerful legs propelling him over the first barriers with ease. Other cadets followed, each employing their species' particular advantages. The Mantodine practically flew over obstacles with his powerful jump legs. A Calixian female used her low body weight and exceptional balance to navigate narrow beams effortlessly. Hayes started at a measured pace, neither rushing nor lagging. While others immediately showcased their natural abilities, the humans simply ran with economy of motion, conserving energy and analyzing the course ahead. The first real challenge came at the climbing wall, a sheer 15-meter surface with minimal handholds. Varek scaled it with his natural claws, while others used various specialized techniques. When Hayes reached it, many observers expected him to struggle. Instead, he ascended with remarkable efficiency, finding invisible patterns in the seemingly random handholds, moving with a fluidity that spoke of thousands of hours of practice. As the course progressed through increasingly difficult challenges, swinging platforms over simulated lava pools, narrow traverses under automated stun fire, strength-testing mechanical barriers. A pattern emerged. While Hayes rarely took the lead, he never fell far behind. More importantly, he maintained a consistent pace while others began to tire. The final challenge was a wrestling ring where cadets faced off against robotic opponents calibrated to test their combat capabilities. Varek demolished his mechanical adversary with raw power, literally tearing off one of its limbs to the appreciative hoots of his fellow Crocs. Other cadets employed various techniques according to their physiologies and training. When Hayes' turn came, the gathered cadets and instructors watched with heightened interest. The human faced the robot with a neutral stance, giving away nothing. When the machine attacked with a lightning-fast strike, Hayes didn't block the much stronger opponent. He redirected its momentum, using its own force against it in a seamless countering move. 3 times the robot attacked, and 3 times Hayes turned its power aside, each time leaving the machine slightly off balance. On the 4th exchange, he exploited a momentary vulnerability to sweep the robot's legs while applying precise pressure to a joint mechanism. The machine went down hard, and before it could recover, Hayes had positioned himself to apply a disabling hold to its central processing unit. The entire exchange had taken less than 30 seconds, and Hayes had barely seemed to exert himself. A stunned silence fell over the training complex, broken only when instructor Than called out, "Time. Assessment complete." As the cadets dispersed, Varek shouldered his way to confront Hayes. Impressive for a soft skin, the Croc rumbled, his reptilian eyes narrowed. But real combat isn't about clever tricks. Hayes met the much larger cadets' gaze steadily. No, it's about survival and mission accomplishment by any effective means. We'll see how effective your means are when you face me instead of a predictable machine. With that threat hanging in the air, Varek stalked away. In the observation booth above the training floor, Commander Zyler stood with Dr. Selena, a Medusan whose floating, tentacled body was contained within a specialized environmental suit. "Well," Zyler demanded. "Fascinating," Dr. Selena replied, her voice modulated through her suit's speakers. His vital signs during the assessment never approached stress levels. Heart rate increased appropriately with exertion, but returned to baseline rapidly during brief rest periods. Oxygen utilization efficiency is remarkable. Explain. Most species have preferred energy systems and physiological specializations, explosive strength, sustained endurance, rapid recovery, heightened reflexes. This human displays balanced optimization across all parameters, though not to the extreme levels some specialized species achieve in their niche abilities. So he's a generalist, Zyler concluded dismissively. Jack of all trades, master of none. Not exactly, the doctor countered. It's more accurate to say he's specifically trained to maximize human physiological potential across all parameters. This level of optimization doesn't occur naturally, meaning someone has invested considerable resources in this human's development. The question is why. Over the next several days, Hayes settled into the academy routine while continuing to live and train under triple Earth gravity in his quarters. Each morning, he rose before dawn for a private training regimen, then joined the standard cadet activities throughout the day. His performance remained consistently strong across all assessments, never dominating, but always placing in the upper tier despite competing against species with natural advantages. What most impressed the instructors, though few would admit it openly, was his adaptability. When a training exercise unexpectedly flooded with water, the aquatic species naturally excelled while others struggled. Hayes calmly modified his technique and completed the task with methodical efficiency. When a combat simulation required operating in near-zero gravity, he adjusted his movements to the new environment faster than many cadets from spacefaring species. In the mess hall, Hayes typically ate alone, though not by choice. Few cadets made efforts to engage with the human, partly from xenophobic prejudice and partly from simple uncertainty about how to interact with his unfamiliar biology. He accepted this isolation with the same stoic equanimity he showed in training, neither seeking company nor rejecting it when occasionally offered. One evening, Deputy Commander Kale entered the officers' lounge to find a heated discussion in progress among the training instructors. And then he anticipated the gravity shift before the system even announced it, Instructor Than was saying, adjusted his stance and redistributed his weight in the split second before it hit. I've never seen reactions like that in a baseline species. Baseline? Scoffed Combat Instructor Vex, a cybernetically enhanced Taurian. There's nothing baseline about him. You've seen his night training records? What night training? Kale asked, joining the conversation. The instructors exchanged glances before Vex answered. The human trains in his quarters between 100 and 300 hours, under triple Earth gravity. I'm aware of his gravity settings, Kale replied. What type of training? Combat forms mostly. Complex movement patterns that combine elements from at least a dozen fighting styles I recognize and several I don't. Strength training that would crush most species. But it's the precision that's most remarkable. Perfect form on every repetition, regardless of fatigue. Is that so unusual? Asked a junior instructor. Many species have intensive training regimens. The difference, Dr. Selena interjected, having entered unnoticed, is that most species train to emphasize their natural advantages. This human trains systematically to eliminate weaknesses. And does he have weaknesses? Kale asked directly. Physiologically speaking, many, the doctor replied. Humans lack natural armor, have no redundant organs, possess relatively modest sensory capabilities, and require consistent atmospheric conditions within narrow parameters. Yet Cadet Hayes has developed compensatory adaptations for nearly every vulnerability. His bone density is twice human standard. His muscle fiber composition displays unusual hybrid characteristics. His lung capacity exceeds normal human ranges by 40%. Genetic engineering, suggested Than. No evidence of that, Selena countered. These appear to be adaptations achieved through specialized training and controlled environmental stress. In short, someone has been methodically pushing this human to his physiological limits for years, possibly his entire life. To what end? Kale wondered aloud. That, said Commander Zyler, who had been silently listening from the doorway, is precisely what we need to determine. 2 days later, the Academy conducted its variable gravity combat trials, a specialized assessment designed to test adaptability to changing gravitational conditions. The exercise took place in the spherical combat chamber, where gravity could be adjusted instantly in any direction and intensity. Cadets were paired off for one-on-one matches, with gravity shifts occurring randomly throughout each bout. Victory was achieved by forcing an opponent into a designated failure zone, or by rendering them unable to continue. When the matchups were announced, no one was surprised to find Hayes paired against Varek. The Croc had made no secret of his desire to put the human in his place, and the instructors saw an opportunity to test Hayes' limits against a naturally superior opponent. As the two cadets entered the spherical chamber, the size difference between them was stark. Varek towered over Hayes, his scaled hide gleaming under the lights, powerful muscles rippling with each movement. The human appeared almost frail by comparison, though the attentive observer might notice the unusual density to his frame and the perfect economy of his movements. Combatants ready, announced Instructor Than from the control booth. Standard rules apply. The system will randomly vary gravity between 0.5 and 4 times Academy standard. Direction may also shift. Combat ends upon surrender, incapacitation, or when one combatant enters the red failure zone. Begin on the signal. As the starting tone sounded, Varek immediately charged, clearly intending to overwhelm Hayes with sheer power before the human could employ more subtle tactics. Hayes sidestepped with precision, letting the larger cadet's momentum carry him past. However, at that exact moment, gravity shifted to 3 times normal, and downward momentum suddenly became forward momentum toward the chamber wall. Hayes adjusted instantly, rolling with the new force vector while Varek struggled to correct his charge. What followed was less a traditional fight and more a complex dance with physics. Every 30 seconds, gravity would change intensity or direction or both. The combatants found themselves weightless one moment and crushed to the floor the next. Sometimes down became sideways, sending both fighters sliding across the curved chamber walls. Throughout it all, Hayes maintained an uncanny awareness of position and momentum. While Varek relied on raw power and natural durability, the human used the changing conditions to his advantage, conserving energy and letting the shifting gravity do much of his work for him. 15 minutes into the match, an eternity in such grueling conditions, both combatants showed signs of fatigue. Varek's movements had slowed, his legendary croc endurance tested by the constant gravitational shifts. Hayes moved more carefully now, his reactions a fraction slower though still precisely calculated. The decisive moment came during a sudden shift to quadruple gravity. As both fighters were pressed to what was momentarily the floor, Hayes executed a technique that appeared to surrender control, rolling toward the edge of the safe zone. Varek, seeing opportunity, lunged to push his opponent into the failure area. At the last possible instant, Hayes pivoted, using leverage rather than strength to redirect the croc's momentum while gravity simultaneously shifted again, this time to near zero. The combination of forces sent Varek tumbling uncontrollably toward the red zone. In desperation, he clawed at a wall fixture, which began to tear from its moorings under his weight as gravity shifted once more. The metal strut bent dangerously, threatening to snap back with potentially lethal force. Without hesitation, Hayes launched himself across the chamber. Instead of letting his opponent fall into the failure zone, which would have secured his victory, he intercepted the failing strut before it could whiplash into Varek's unprotected neck. The impact of catching the metal bar sent Hayes himself sliding toward the red zone, but he managed to arrest his momentum just at the boundary line. For a moment, the chamber was silent except for the heavy breathing of both combatants. Then Instructor Than's voice came over the speaker. Match suspended. Both combatants returned to center. As gravity normalized, Hayes offered a hand to Varek. After a moment of stunned confusion, the croc accepted it, allowing the much smaller human to help him to his feet. Why? Varek asked simply as they walked to the center of the chamber. Winning a match isn't worth a teammate's injury, Hayes replied. We are not teammates. Not yet, Hayes conceded. The observation deck erupted in discussion as the combatants exited the chamber. Never in the Academy's history had a human demonstrated such capability against a croc warrior in direct combat. More significantly, Hayes had prioritized preventing injury over securing victory, a choice that contradicted many assumptions about human competitive nature. Later that evening, Hayes received a summons to Commander Zyler's office. When he arrived, he found not only Zyler, but also Deputy Commander Kale, a Dr. Celano waiting for him. Cadet Hayes, Zyler began without preliminary courtesies. Explain your living quarters gravity settings. Hayes stood at attention. 3 times Earth standard, sir. And the reason for this unusual requirement. Maintenance of physical conditioning, sir. Don't play games, Cadet. Zyler snapped, his exoskeleton flushing with irritation patterns. Your quarters were initially set to double Earth gravity as a test. You not only detected the change, but requested an increase to triple. Explain. Hayes was silent for a long moment, evaluating his options. Finally, he spoke. Permission to access secure protocols, sir? Zyler's compound eyes narrowed. What protocols? Earth Diplomatic Corps Directive 347B, sir. Special Representative Authorization. Kale moved to the terminal and entered a series of commands. The screen flashed briefly, then displayed a classified document bearing the Earth government seal alongside the Stellar Alliance insignia. It appears Cadet Hayes has diplomatic status beyond standard academy enrollment, Kale said quietly. His authorization is legitimate. Zyler's secondary limbs twitched in agitation. Explain yourself, Cadet. Now, Hayes' posture relaxed slightly, though he remained respectfully attentive. Commander, I am not only a cadet, but also an authorized representative of Project Prometheus, Earth's specialized adaptation program. My presence here serves dual purposes: to train as an Academy cadet and to establish accurate baseline parameters for human capabilities in interstellar service. Project Prometheus? Dr. Selena inquired. A 50-year initiative to optimize human performance for space operations and interspecies cooperation, Hayes explained. Earth recognized early in our contact with the galactic community that humans possess no obvious evolutionary advantages compared to many species. We lack natural armor, have no specialized sensory organs, and evolved on a relatively low-gravity planet. Yet you function under triple Earth gravity as if it were normal, Selena observed. That's precisely the point, Doctor. Humans may lack spectacular natural advantages, but we possess remarkable adaptability. Project Prometheus exploits this through systematic exposure to extreme conditions, specialized dietary regimens, and training protocols designed to push the boundaries of human potential. How many others like you exist? Kale asked. The exact number is classified, but I can confirm that I represent the first generation of completed Prometheus subjects. Our training began in childhood and continues throughout our operational lives. Zyler leaned forward. Why wasn't this disclosed in your application? It was, sir, in the classified addendum. As for the practical demonstration, rather than a formal briefing, Hayes allowed himself a small smile. We calculated that showing would be more effective than telling. You anticipated the gravity adjustment, Zyler realized. You knew someone would test you. Historical data suggested a 78% probability of some form of physical challenge being imposed. Gravitational manipulation was the most likely vector, given the common perception of Earth as a low-gravity world. In your request for triple gravity, strategic revelation of capability parameters, sir, Earth's diplomatic position is enhanced when our true capabilities are properly understood. Kill almost smiled. You're telling us you're here not just as a cadet, but as a demonstration, a living calibration tool. Yes, sir. The galaxy has been underestimating humanity, partly because we've let them. Project Prometheus aims to correct that misperception through controlled revelation rather than bold claims. And the incident with Cadet Varek today? Zyler pressed. Was that also calculated? The match outcome was not predetermined, sir. Varek is an exceptional fighter. But yes, demonstrating both capability and ethical priorities was part of my operational parameters. You could have won more decisively, Selena observed. Victory wasn't. The objective, Doctor. Establishing accurate parameters was. The three officers exchanged glances. Finally, Zyler spoke. Cadet Hayes, you'll continue your training under normal Academy protocols. Your diplomatic status does not exempt you from standard requirements or discipline. Is that understood? Perfectly, sir. Dismissed. As the door closed behind Hayes, Cale turned to his commander. Well, that explains a great deal. It raises more questions than it answers, Zyler countered, his exoskeleton now displaying patterns of concern rather than anger. If humans have been systematically developing such capabilities in secret, what else don't we know about them? Perhaps that's exactly the question they want us to ask, Dr. Selena suggested thoughtfully. The following weeks saw subtle but significant changes in Hayes' Academy experience. The outright hostility and dismissal he had initially faced from both fellow cadets and some instructors gradually transformed into cautious respect. His combat sessions became well-attended, with observers studying his techniques with newfound interest. Several instructors began consulting him on human physiological capabilities for training design purposes. Most surprising was the change in Varek. After their gravitational combat encounter, the Crocs sought out Hayes during meal periods, initially sitting in silence before gradually engaging in conversation. Their discussions began with technical analyses of combat techniques, but eventually broadened to cultural exchange. Varek, it turned out, had a scholarly interest in comparative evolutionary advantages that belied his brutish appearance. Your species confuses me, Varek admitted during one such conversation. You lack the obvious advantages that drove most spacefaring races to dominance on their homeworlds. No claws, minimal strength compared to many species, unremarkable sensory capabilities, fragile skin. Yet here you are, functioning at levels that defy explanation. Necessity breeds innovation, Hayes replied. When you can't rely on natural advantages, you develop different ones. Like your fighting style, it incorporates principles from dozens of techniques, modified to work together. Hayes nodded. Human martial arts evolved precisely because we couldn't physically overpower many predators. We had to outsmart them, use their strength against them, target vulnerabilities. And now you apply the same principle to interstellar relations? Varek's reptilian features formed what Hayes had learned to recognize as a smile. Clever. I wouldn't characterize it that way. We're simply ensuring accurate understanding of capabilities. Misconceptions lead to miscalculations. Like assuming a human couldn't handle high gravity? Exactly like that. The Academy's training curriculum intensified as the term progressed. Cadets faced increasingly difficult scenarios designed to test not only individual capabilities, but also team dynamics and leadership potential. Hayes found himself frequently requested as a squad member by different team leaders, his adaptability proving valuable across diverse mission parameters. Commander Zyler, while never warm toward the human, had shifted from open skepticism to grudging acknowledgement. During one particularly challenging simulation involving hostile environment extraction, he personally observed Hayes coordinate between a silicoid fluid breather and a phobosian radiation feeder, two species with fundamentally incompatible operational requirements. The human solution was elegant in its simplicity, yet required precise execution under extreme pressure. Innovative approach, Cadet, Zyler commented afterward, which from him constituted high praise. Thank you, sir. Necessity driven by physiological constraints. Something you understand intimately, I imagine. Hayes met the commander's compound eyes. Every species has limitations, sir. Understanding them honestly is the first step toward overcoming them. The statement hung in the air between them, an acknowledgement of their shared experience from opposite perspectives. As the Academy term approached its midpoint, anticipation built around the comprehensive environmental challenge, a legendary trial that pushed cadets to their absolute limits. Teams would face a series of obstacles across multiple planetary condition simulations, from methane ice worlds to sulfuric acid atmospheres to neutron star gravity wells. Success required not only individual excellence, but perfect team coordination across environmental extremes. Team assignments were announced 1 week before the challenge. To widespread surprise, Hayes was named team leader for Squad 7, with Varek as his second-in-command. Their team included representatives from 6 different species, each with highly specialized physiological adaptations and corresponding limitations. This is either brilliant or sabotage, Varek commented when they received their assignments. We have the widest physiological divergence of any squad, which means we have the broadest spectrum of capabilities, Hayes countered. If we can coordinate effectively, that's a significant if human, then we'd better start working on it. Over the following days, Hayes immersed himself in understanding his teammates' capabilities, limitations, and psychological tendencies. He studied their medical profiles, previous performance data, and cultural backgrounds. Rather than holding traditional planning sessions, he worked with each squad member individually before bringing them together, ensuring that everyone felt their specific needs were acknowledged. The morning of the challenge arrived with ceremonial gravity. The entire Academy gathered in the main amphitheater as Commander Zyler outlined the parameters. The comprehensive environmental challenge tests not only your physical and tactical capabilities, but your judgment and teamwork under extreme conditions, he announced. Each squad will navigate a series of environmental zones with mission objectives specific to their team composition. There are no standardized solutions. You must leverage your unique team capabilities while mitigating individual vulnerabilities. Deputy Commander Kale stepped forward. This year's challenge incorporates a new element, cascading environment shifts. Boundary zones between environments will be unpredictable and may shift during your mission. Adaptability will be essential to survival, let alone success. As the squads were dismissed to their starting positions, Dr. Selana approached Hayes privately. A word of caution, Cadet. Our monitoring systems have limitations in certain extreme environments. If you encounter difficulty, prioritize withdrawal over heroics. Hayes nodded respectfully. Understood, Doctor. Though I suspect you've already calculated that heroics are sometimes the most logical solution. Her environmental suit emitted what might have been a chuckle. Just remember that Project Prometheus presumably invested considerable resources in your development. Try to return their investment intact. I'll do my best. The challenge began with Squad 7 entering a simulated high-pressure methane environment. Each team member wore specialized environmental protection tailored to their physiological needs. Hayes' suit was noticeably less bulky than most, featuring adaptive materials developed by Project Prometheus for enhanced flexibility without compromising protection. First objective, Hayes announced over the team comm, retrieve the data core from the abandoned research station 2 kilometers north. Environmental hazards include pressure fluctuations, methane combustion pockets, and potential indigenous life forms. Indigenous to a simulation? Asked Mira, their collection scout. The Academy imports actual organisms for authenticity, Varek explained. Consider all biological threats genuine. They move through the thick, greenish atmosphere with careful coordination. Hayes had positioned their celicoid member, Philu, at point position as its fluid physiology was least affected by the crushing pressure. Varek protected their rear, while Hayes maintained the center position to coordinate between specialized members. Temperature dropping, reported Krell, their mantodine sensor specialist. Methane crystallization imminent. Philu, increase your forward membrane temperature to create a thermal path, Hayes ordered. Mira, deploy illumination spheres at 20-meter intervals. Varek, watch for indigenous predator response to the light changes. The team executed the commands with practiced efficiency, the result of Hayes' intensive preparation sessions. As they approached the abandoned research station, the environment began to shift, exactly as Kale had warned. Boundary instability detected, Krell chittered. Atmosphere composition changing. Sulfuric compounds increasing. Shift formation. Hayes ordered without hesitation. Varna point, Philu fall back to position 4. Respirator modifications according to Protocol Chimera. The squad smoothly reconfigured as the environment transformed around them from methane ice to caustic acid fog. Each member activated specific protective measures based on their unique vulnerabilities, following the contingency plans Hayes had drilled into them. At the research station, they encountered their first major obstacle, a security system still active despite the facility's abandoned status. Defensive turrets emerged from concealed positions, targeting heat signatures and movement patterns. Evasive pattern Epsilon, Hayes commanded. Varn, deploy sensory confusion measures. Mira, identify the control node. The next 10 minutes were a choreographed dance of specialized capabilities. Varn, an energy-based Phobosian, absorbed weapons fire while redirecting enough energy to create false signatures. Mira used her exceptional vision to locate the nearly invisible control circuitry. Krell interfaced with the alien technology while Varek provided physical protection. Hayes coordinated each element while constantly monitoring environmental shifts and team biometrics. When Krell's exoskeleton began showing stress fractures from an unexpected radiation surge, Hayes immediately redistributed tasks and positioned himself to absorb some of the exposure. Data core secured, Mira announced finally. The primary exit route is now submerged in corrosive compounds. Secondary route compromised as well, Varek added. The environmental shifts are accelerating. Hayes processed the information instantly. New extraction plan. Thulu, can you extend your protective membrane to encompass Krell's injured segments? Affirmative, but mobility will be reduced by 60%. Understood. Varn, you'll need to carry both Thulu and Krell through the high-energy zone we detected to the east. Mira, scout a precise path. Varek and I will handle rear security and the data core. As they exited the research station, the simulation delivered its most challenging scenario yet, a rapidly oscillating environment that cycled between extreme conditions every 90 seconds. Freezing methane would give way to caustic acid fog, then shift to radiation-saturated vacuum, followed by crushing gravitational pressure. Synchronize movement to the cycles, Hayes directed. We move during the gravitational phase. It's the one condition we can all tolerate briefly. 3 grueling hours later, Squad 7 emerged from the final environmental barrier. Every member showed signs of extreme stress, but all were functional and the mission objectives had been accomplished. More impressively, they had adapted to environmental conditions far more volatile than any previous challenge had featured. As medical teams assessed the returning cadets, Commander Zyler approached Squad 7 with Deputy Commander Kale, a Dr. Selana. "Congratulations are in order," Zyler stated formally. "Your squad completed all primary objectives and 87% of secondary objectives, the highest success rate in this year's challenge." "Thank you, sir," Hayes responded, still monitoring his teammates' conditions despite his own obvious exhaustion. "Your strategy of environmental synchronization was particularly notable," Kale added. "We've not seen that approach before. It was the logical solution given our team composition, sir." Dr. Solana's environmental suit emitted a series of soft clicks, her species equivalent of thoughtful humming. "Your biometric data during the challenge is illuminating, Cadet Hayes. You absorb radiation exposure that would have incapacitated most species without protection. Prometheus protocols include radiation hardening, Doctor. Nothing extraordinary." "On the contrary," she countered, "the extraordinary aspect was your decision-making. You consistently positioned yourself to absorb the most dangerous environmental hazards while assigning your teammates to tasks that minimized their specific vulnerabilities." Varek, who had been silently observing the exchange, finally spoke. "He didn't just lead us through obstacles. He created a merged operational entity greater than our individual capabilities." Zyler's exoskeleton displayed a complex pattern that Hayes had never seen before. An astute observation, Cadet Varek, and perhaps the most valuable lesson of the challenge. The commander turned to Hayes. "Report to my office at 0800 tomorrow. There are matters we need to discuss." The following morning, Hayes arrived precisely on time to find not only the Academy leadership awaiting him, but also 2 unexpected figures: Ambassador Shiran from the Stellar Alliance Council and a distinguished human woman in the formal blue and silver uniform of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. "Cadet Hayes," Commander Zyler began, "may I introduce Ambassador Shiran of the Council and Director Eliza Hammond of Earth's Interstellar Development Program." Hayes saluted crisply. "Ambassador, Director, an unexpected honor." "At ease, Ethan," Director Hammond said with a small smile. "Your performance has accelerated certain timelines." Ambassador Shiran, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin and eyes that reflected light like prisms, studied Hayes with evident curiosity. "The Academy has provided most impressive reports of your capabilities, Cadet Hayes, particularly your leadership approach during yesterday's challenge. I simply applied appropriate tactics to the scenario, Ambassador." "You did considerably more than that," Deputy Commander Kale interjected. "Your integration of disparate physiologies into a cohesive unit represents an advancement in cross-species operational doctrine." Director Hammond nodded. "That was precisely the intent of Project Prometheus. Not merely to enhance human capabilities, but to develop integration methodologies that transcend physiological barriers. Then I've succeeded in my mission parameters," Hayes stated simply. "Indeed you have," Zyler confirmed, his tone carrying unexpected respect. "Which brings us to the purpose of this meeting." The commander activated a hollow projection showing Academy statistics and training protocols. The Stellar Elite Academy has existed for 3 centuries as the premier officer, training institution in known space. In that time, our methodologies have evolved but remained fundamentally species-centric in approach. Meaning, Kale elaborated that we train excellent Xylosian officers, excellent Andorian officers, excellent Croc officers, each according to their species' natural advantages. What we haven't effectively developed is truly integrated operational capacity. Ambassador Shiran's melodic voice filled the room. The Council has observed increasing evidence that the challenges facing our collective civilizations require precisely this integration. Threats that exploit the vulnerabilities of individual species can only be countered by teams that transform those same vulnerabilities into strategic assets through proper configuration. As demonstrated by Squad 7 yesterday, Hammond added. Exactly so, Xyler confirmed. Therefore, effective immediately, the Academy will be implementing new training protocols based on your methodologies, Cadet Hayes. You will assist in their development. Hayes maintained his composure, though the magnitude of this shift was momentarily overwhelming. I'm honored to contribute, Commander, but I'm still a cadet in training myself. Your status is being adjusted, Hammond explained. The original timeline called for you to complete a full Academy term before revealing more comprehensive aspects of Prometheus protocols. Events have overtaken that plan. Kale handed Hayes a datapad containing his new assignment details. You'll continue your Academy training on an accelerated track while simultaneously serving as special advisor to the Cross-Species Integration Initiative. Several other Prometheus operatives will be joining the Academy within the month to support the program expansion. Other operatives? Hayes couldn't hide his surprise. I was under the impression I was the only one deployed off-Earth at this time. Director Hammond smiled. That impression was intentional, Ethan. Standard Prometheus protocol, distributed knowledge containment. Each operative knows only what they need to for their specific mission. I see. Hayes quickly absorbed the implications. And the broader mission now becomes public? Not public, Ambassador Shiran corrected, but known to key institutions like the Academy. Earth has demonstrated both capability and commitment through your performance. The Council believes it's time to accelerate human integration into leadership roles within the Alliance. The conversation continued for another hour, covering specific aspects of the new initiative and Hayes' role within it. As the meeting concluded, Commander Xyler requested a private word with Hayes while the others departed. Once alone, the commander's formal demeanor softened slightly. I owe you an acknowledgement, Cadet Hayes. My initial assessment of human potential was flawed. No apology necessary, Commander. Skepticism serves an evolutionary purpose, protection against unknown variables. Indeed, Xyler's secondary limbs flexed thoughtfully. Though I confess my skepticism extended beyond prudent caution into prejudice. The gravity adjustment in your quarters was my directive. I know, sir. You knew. Hayes allowed himself a small smile. Prometheus training includes extensive study of xenopsychology. Your reaction was statistically predictable given your species' evolutionary history and the Academy's operational culture. So your request for triple gravity was a calculated response to my test. A demonstration rather than a confrontation, sir. Humans understand the value of showing rather than telling, particularly when dealing with species that prize physical capability. Xyler made a sound that might have been laughter. Well played, Cadet. Or should I say Advisor Hayes now? Cadet is still appropriate, Commander. Rank and titles matter less than effective function. A philosophical position I'm beginning to appreciate. Xyler extended a primary limb, the Xylosian equivalent of a handshake, a gesture he rarely offered to any species. Welcome, truly, to the Stellar Elite Academy. Hayes accepted the gesture with appropriate pressure. Thank you, sir. I look forward to building something new together. In the weeks that followed, the Academy underwent subtle but profound changes. 4 more Prometheus operatives arrived, each with different specializations and physiological optimizations. Training squads were reorganized to maximize physiological diversity rather than grouping similar species together. New courses in xenoadaptive tactics and cross-species communication were introduced to the curriculum. Hayes found himself in the unexpected position of instructor as often as student, teaching specialized integration techniques to both cadets and senior officers. His relationship with Varek evolved into a genuine friendship built on mutual respect, with the Croc becoming one of the strongest advocates for the new training methodologies. 3 months after the fateful gravity joke, the Academy hosted a delegation from 24 worlds to observe the results of the integration initiative. The demonstration centered on a complex rescue simulation involving environmental hazards specifically designed to target the weaknesses of each participating species. Hayes led a mixed team that included Varek, representatives from 5 other species, and 2 fellow Prometheus operatives. Their performance was nothing short of revolutionary, flowing between formations and roles with seamless coordination, creating protective bubbles around vulnerable team members during specific hazard phases, and solving complex tactical problems through distributed cognitive processing across different neurological architectures. As the impressed delegates departed, Director Hammond found Hayes in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You've started something remarkable here, Ethan," she said, joining him at the viewport. "No, Director. We have Project Prometheus, the Academy, the Council, all working toward the same goal from different angles. Integration rather than competition," she mused. "The lesson extends beyond tactical applications." Hayes nodded. "That was always the point, wasn't it? The physical adaptations were just the beginning, the foundation for something larger." "Indeed. The Council has approved the next phase, establishing integration centers on 12 worlds, with Prometheus operatives as core instructors." She handed him a data crystal. "Your new assignment, if you choose to accept it." Hayes studied the crystal thoughtfully. "Training others to do what we do. Teaching the galaxy that our differences are assets when properly configured, not obstacles to be overcome individually." Hammond smiled. "Or, as Commander Zyler now puts it, transforming vulnerability into collective strength. He's come a long way from doubling my gravity as a joke. And you come a long way from asking for triple just to make a point," Hammond countered with a knowing look. Hayes laughed, a genuine, unguarded moment rare for a Prometheus operative. "He still doesn't know that triple gravity is standard training condition for us, does he? Some mysteries are worth preserving, Ethan, especially those that founded mutual respect." As they turned to leave, Hayes cast one last glance at the stars. The vast arena where humanity would now play a larger role than anyone had anticipated when he first stepped off that shuttle. The gravity joke had indeed turned into something much more significant, a complete recalibration of humanity's place in the cosmic order. And all because they doubled the gravity for the human trainee as a joke, and he asked for triple.